everyone. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our warm-up for day number 11. We're starting out with the solving equations, and I know sometimes a lot of you struggle with the equations that have the fractions in them. You can see how x is kind of tied up in a fraction. So what we're going to do to start out with is we're actually just going to rewrite this to show the fraction that is with x. So that x over 3 is actually just 1/3 x. Remember there's a 1 right in front of that x, and we're just going to write that fraction off to the side. Plus 7 equals, and we're going to do the same thing to this other fraction. Instead it's 7x over 3, we're going to write it with the fraction off to the side, minus 21. And once it's written this way, then we can start moving our pieces around like we've been doing throughout the school year. So we're going to start by adding 21 to both sides. That gives me 1/3 x plus 28 is equal to 7/3 x. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move that 1/3 x over to the other side by subtracting it. We're not going to fear the fraction. You are just going to follow those steps. The 1/3 there is positive, and the opposite of something positive is something negative. That gives me 28 is equal to 6/3 x. Now, right here, 6/3, I mean, that should be a fraction that is more easily simplified. So I know that 6/3 x is actually 6 divided by 3 is 2. So right there in that part of the equation, the fraction is actually gone, and we're back to a whole number. When a number is next to a letter, it means to multiply, and the opposite of multiplication is division. What you do to one side, you do to the other, and when you do 28 divided by 2, you get an answer of 14. Okay, moving on to problem number 2. It's asking us to find the distance, and this is, since it's distance, remember there's a difference between distance and slope. Distance is a Pythagorean theorem problem. So I'm going to connect these dots to make the triangle. And we are missing our hypotenuse. And I'm going to pay very close attention to what my coordinate grid is counting by. My coordinate grid is not counting by ones, it's actually counting by halves. So half, 1, 1.5, 2, and then we're going to do that again on the across the other leg. Half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6. Now that we have our measurements, we can do our Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. We have 2 squared plus 6 squared equals c squared. We have 4 plus 36 is equal to c squared. We have, that gives us 40 is equal to c squared. And then the opposite of something squared is the square root. And I'm going to do that to both sides. That gives me c is equal to about 6.32. So the distance between the 2 points is 6.32. That's what we're using as our final answer. And then last, we come to problem number 3, which is a function, not a function problem. Now, in order for this to be a function, remember your inputs cannot repeat. So I'm just going to go over and I'm going to count. That has 1 arrow coming from it, 1 arrow, but here we have 2 arrows. That can't happen, so this is not a function. 1 arrow, this number has an arrow, this number has an arrow. That is okay, it is a function. Now, it does tell us there may be more than one answer, so let's go ahead and check option C. We have 1 arrow, 1 arrow, 1 arrow, and 1 arrow. All the inputs are only used one time, so that means yes, it is a function. All right, that concludes your warm-up for day number 11. Thanks for watching.